And welcome in to the Blitz podcast. I'm your host today, Mr. Kane Schwartz, and I'm joined by a guy who I'm happy to have back on a podcast with me. We haven't done a podcast together in like a year and change probably, but I got Mr. Tyler North in house today. How you doing, man?
Doing well. Yeah, I was actually thinking about it. I think the Super Bowl recap was the last one that we
Wow.
did between the Chiefs and the Eagles, which,
Yeah.
if we're looking back on it, you actually correctly predicted that Super Bowl. I was giving you shit for it being chalk, one versus one, but the Kelsey Bowl came to fruition, and I'll give you your kudos on that because you called that pretty correctly. But no, yeah, man, life's good. Prepping for a wedding.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
we're into week 3 of the NFL season. Week 5, I think, week 4 of the college football season. So we're like calf deep right now into football season, which is awesome. And I can't wait for October because we're going to have baseball playoffs, NHL and NBA starting back up. We're going to be knee deep in college football and NFL. So the best time of sports is right upon us, right here, right now. 21st of September. I think today is the first day of fall. So
Yep.
we are
Oh,
we
is
are
today the
ready.
first day of fall? Okay, we
Yeah,
are officially primed and ready to go for sports season. Like you said, October is the best time of the year, man. You got your hoodies out, you got your football on, playoff baseball is on, postseason baseball, I should say. But it's a good time of the year, man. And we are looking forward to diving into a little bit of a week 3 preview we got going on today's episode. So without further ado, man, let's dive into it. And the first game that we got on the slate is the game going on tonight, and that is Thursday night football matchup between the New York Football Giants and the San Francisco 49ers. And I mean, this will be an interesting one to say the least because the Giants have looked like one of the worst teams in football despite their comeback against Arizona, which was the most in franchise history. I'll take that. That was cool and everything. They should have blown them out from the start. That's no secret to anybody. So there's something going on in New York right now. Saquon's also banged up, so you're not going to have him in this game. So not looking too good for the Giants. On the San Fran side, Brock Purdy's been looking good. Ayuk seems to be the new wide receiver 1 in San Fran, so that's
he's
something
probably out
interesting.
tonight. He's
Oh,
probably out
okay.
tonight, which means it's going to be a lot of Debo. If you want a little flyer, Jawan Jennings, don't sleep on it. He's been a name that's always been there, and he's had all the talent in the world. Coming out of the University of Tennessee. I think he's in his 4th or 5th year now with the 49ers. I could see him getting some action. I think this is going to be like a Kittle-type game, maybe throwing like a Kyle Juszczyk touchdown
Ooh,
or
okay.
Elijah Mitchell. I think they're going to spread a lot because it's a short week. You don't want to use CMC as much. And like you said, there's no Saquon on the other side of the ball, the most explosive playmaker for the Giants. So it's going to be a lot of Matt Breida tonight, the journeyman that's come over that, up against his former team, which he, was able to explode and kind of come onto the scene into the NFL with the 49ers. But it's going to be a lot of Matt Breida. You're going to see, I think, a lot of Darren Waller. Jalen Hyatt had some big catches next week, so maybe he gets integrated more into their
Yeah.
game plan. Slayton, but yeah, I don't give the Giants much of a fighting chance. Like you said, last week was great. The comeback was incredible. But if you
Yep.
start out like that against these Niners, you're going to have another 40-0 game on your hands. So I think this comes down to whether or not the Giants in that first half can keep it competitive. And I would say, within a one-score game at half, and maybe they could pull some tricks out of their hat. Dayball is an offensive mastermind, so he's got the play calling up his sleeve. The question is, does he have the playmakers to be able to pull off some of those crazy trick plays? So, yeah, I think this is kind of going to be a snooze fest tonight.
Yeah.
I, I
Just
think
a
the
little
Niners
bit.
are going to handle business.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And the spread in this game is -10 in favor of San Fran, so I'm definitely going San Fran too. I mean, I don't know what's going on in New York. I mean, it's no secret that I was the highest among all the Blitzpop members on the Giants coming into this year. What have you seen that just like tells you that this team is not the team for this year?
Yeah, everybody wants to talk about how, Daniel Jones and that offense really clicked in that second half last week. But really and truly, if you want my honest opinion, I think it's the defense. I think
Yeah.
the defense really turned a corner in that second half last week, and down the stretch, especially in that fourth quarter, they were getting 3-and-outs. They were getting stops when they needed to get stops. And that's the type of defense that we were expecting from the Giants. The Wink Martindale led defense. We were expecting similar to what we had last year, and we just haven't seen it so far this year. Maybe this is a game that they really turn it on and keep this into a low-scoring slugfest. But I think this San Fran team is just, on paper, this might be the best team in football. And between them and the Cowboys in the NFC, I know the Eagles are there. Don't jump the gun too much there. But the Eagles haven't looked what they were last year, whereas San Fran and Dallas have both been, that juggernaut Super Bowl contender type team that we expected from them. I think they handle business here. But yeah, I just think it's too much on both sides of the ball for San Fran, especially with no Saquon for the Giants, for them to overcome some of these deficiencies.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you mentioned the defense. I mean, this cornerback room I thought was going to be a lot better. First-round pick Deontay Banks, shout out. He a Terp. But he's ranking out at 50.8 on the season, PFF grade, 80 out of 98 corners. I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau has a 55.8 grade, so that sucks. It's just not been good for this defensive side of the ball for New York. But you hope Wink and the boys can get it together going into this one so we don't have to sleep through Thursday Night Football tonight. But either way, taking the San Fran 49ers, baby. So, all right, let's move on from the Thursday Night Football matchup and let's dive into the first game that we got going on Sunday, and that is the Titans and Browns. And we saw the Browns pretty recently on Monday Night Football, and, I mean, not great situation going on in Cleveland right now. I mean, they were kind of a sleeper team to do really good things in the AFC this year. Possibly could have won the division. I mean, especially with Cincinnati slumping. But I don't think there's any shot that they do that now because they don't have not Kareem Hunt. They don't have Nick Chubb for the rest of the season. Anybody that was watching that Monday Night Football game knows what happened. Horrific injury, similar to the one that he got in college when he was at Georgia. Same knee, so blew out all the ligaments there. So he's going to be out for this season. They turned to backup Jerome Ford, and they signed Kareem Hunt yesterday to help them out in the running game. But signs don't look good in Cleveland right now, man. I mean, Deshaun Watson struggled on Monday Night Football, but I mean, the Titans kept it close with a good Chargers team last week, so I'm leaning kind of sort of the Titans in this one, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it's on the road in Cleveland, so, I mean, I got to give somewhat of a nod to Cleveland there. Cleveland's defense has been great. Yeah. They gave up a pick six on the first play of the game and then a fumble six later in the game. That's 14 points. Other than that, with George Pickens had a 70-some yard touchdown, I think, really and truly there was nothing else that the Steelers did. And if Nick Chubb's healthy, I don't think they lose that game. I'm pretty sure they win that game. So, yeah, you begin this new chapter of life after Nick Chubb. I know they said they would never bring a guy like Kareem, or the Chiefs said they would never bring a guy like Kareem Hunt back. I didn't think he was going to go to Cleveland, but it's a veteran guy, and it's a guy that knows his system already that you can integrate pretty early on, which means this week he could have a factor into this game. It's going to be whether or not they can stop Derrick Henry.
Yep.
He hasn't been the Derrick Henry that we're used to this year. He is dealing with a little bit of a toe injury, so we'll see if he's able to overcome that. I still think he plays, but I don't really trust Tannehill too much. I know Hopkins is there. I know Treylon Burks is there. Chigo Okonkwo, the tight end, he a Terp. They've got some guys there, but once again, we talked about how this Niners-Giants game is going to be kind of a slugfest. I expect the same thing with this. I think this is going to be a ground-and-pound type game, control the clock, control time of possession. You might have a couple plays from guys like Amari Cooper and David Njoku, but I think they're still going to rely on the run game. Even with Ford, the rookie, and with Kareem Hunt as well. Deshaun Watson might get some rushing looks in this game too. You could see some RPOs that you're not used to seeing, which wouldn't surprise me. I'm going to go with the Browns in this game because it's home, because I like their defense a little bit more than the Titans' defense. Vrabel's a mastermind, and the Titans, they won in overtime against the Chargers, and then in Week 1 they lost by 1 to the Saints. So they've been in both of those games. They could be 2-0, they could be 0-2. So I like the Browns at home here. I think that being at home is a big factor into this game. So I'll give the Browns a nod.
Okay, sweet. I mean, I want to lean towards the Browns. It just looked so bad on Monday Night Football. I mean, Deshaun Watson had 2 face mask penalties, dude, as a quarterback. Like, what are you doing? So it just doesn't – the vibes are off right now in Cleveland, and they're terrible, especially since Nick Chubb got injured. But they could take all this, use it as fuel, and go in on Sunday at home, and they showed really well at home in week 1. I mean, I know you had the rain going on, but that home field advantage is something to look out for sure. I mean, like you said, this Cleveland defense has been dominating. Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith off the side. Grant Delpit has been actually having a really nice year so far. He ranks out as the second.
Denzel Ward's look great too.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, this is a star-studded defense, and they have Jim Schwartz as their defensive coordinator now. They were talking a lot about it on Monday Night Football, about how he wants his guys to play with swagger. He wants his defense to celebrate, kind of like a Nathaniel Hackett on the offensive side of things. Like, he's doing the same vibe with the defense in Cleveland. So I like that. They're playing really well. I think Mike Vrabel's a different cat. Like, I think that guy is going to outcoach Stefanski on Sunday, and that's why I'm going to go Tennessee. And maybe we'll see some more work from Tajay Spears, because they know they can't really get the ball passing to Derrick Henry, especially with him obviously taking a step back this year so far. So maybe we see some Tajay Spears looks, but I'm going to go ahead and take Tennessee in this one. It should be a good one.
Yeah, ironically enough, Derrick Henry's biggest play last week was a receiving pass, believe it or not. I think it was like for 23, 24 yards. He only had 25 carries, I think, for 80 yards. So, yeah, I mean, he hasn't, like I said, he hasn't been the Derrick Henry that we're used to, getting 120, 130-plus games. I don't see him breaking out of that this week. Maybe in weeks to come. But like I said, I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I see this being like a 17-14 type game, something of that nature. Where it's going to be who's going to have the ball last, who's going to control the clock and time of possession, that's going to come out victorious.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be a good one to watch on Sunday. But let's dive into our next matchup that we got here, and that is the Detroit Lions facing off against the Atlanta Falcons. Detroit is at home in this one. Some of the stories coming into this one, I mean, the Falcons are hot right now, baby. They're 2-0. We'll see if it's the real deal. I don't know if they can prove it this week, because Amon-Ra is going to be banged up, so they don't really have he's got turf toe too, so he's probably going to be like 70% of Amon-Ra St. Brown, the guy that we're used to. So they're not fully equipped on the offensive side. This Detroit team lost to the Seahawks last week after coming off a big Week 1 win in Kansas City. So, this is a really tough matchup to pick, man. I'm not sure. Obviously, I was higher on the Lions coming into the season, but how it's been playing out, what do you think?
Well, I mean, yeah, like you were talking about the Falcons, they overcame a 12-point fourth-quarter deficit to beat the Packers last week. I love Bijan. I'm high on Bijan. I think he's going to have an insane game this week. Something in the nature of like 160, 170 combined rushing and receiving yards. Also, the other rookie running back is now kind of the go-to back after your boy David Montgomery looks like he's going to miss this week, maybe multiple weeks with an injury as well. So I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get a lot of work this week, and I think that's going to be the main storyline coming out of this game is what these two rookie running backs are able to do. I'm going to give the Lions the nod here. I trust Goff way more than I trust Ritter. I'll take that any day of the week. I know Amon-Ra's banged up, but they've still got guys like Josh Reynolds. Marvin Jones is still there. You could see a heavy dose of Sam Laporta, the rookie tight end that they drafted. I like this Lions team. I like the swagger that MCDC has with them, and I think they're going to win this game by at least a touchdown.
Okay, respect. I mean, honestly, I can get with that. I mean, this Detroit team, they're going to be pissed off going into this week. They probably shouldn't have lost to the Seahawks last week. I mean, that Seahawks team is a good team, but they got trounced in Week 1 by the Rams. Jared Goff's playing really consistent football right now, like you mentioned. I mean, he grades out as the 4th best quarterback on PFF right now. And if you don't have Amon-Ra St. Brown, I totally agree. Sam Laporta is going to be involved a lot. I mean, he's been involved a lot so far, a lot more than you would expect, being it's a rookie tight end. But it seems like he's the guy, another Iowa tight end. So it seems like he's going to be, I mean, this is literally TJ Hawkinson 2.0. Like, I mean, this is running it back.
And we saw what they were able to do with Hawkinson, so you got to expect. Rookie tight ends are so tough to predict just because it's, in my opinion, the hardest position to translate from college to the NFL and grasp onto right away. I mean, we've seen Kyle Pitts have his struggles as a highly touted tight end coming out of college, Noah Fant having struggles. So it doesn't always work out, but I think this is a prime opportunity going against a weaker linebacking core of the Falcons for Laporta to, I don't want to say assert his dominance, but something in the realm of like 7 for 75 or 80, maybe get a touchdown on like 10 or 11 targets. I don't think is out of the realm whatsoever for him.
No, me neither. And honestly, Gibbs could see the same type of receiving line too, man. I mean, he's going to catch a lot of passes in this one. He's going to run the ball on the ground. I do think that everybody will see an uncomfortable amount of Craig Reynolds in this game. I think that they just want a change of pace back, and that's what Detroit wants. And whether or not you agree with it, that's the game plan. We saw a lot of Reynolds last week after David Montgomery was out, basically. It's like, the question is, what are you doing, man? I mean, everybody's frustrated.
You want to preserve, because coaches are starting to see how fragile running backs are, and that's why I said that about Christian McCaffrey tonight. Like, if the 49ers are up 14 to 20 points in the second half, we're not going to see that much of McCaffrey, because why would you send him out there on a short week just to get banged up more? Preserve him. Yep. This is a long season. This is a marathon. You don't want your running backs getting too much usage in the first 7 to 8 weeks, and then you don't have them for weeks 12 through 17. So, I think that they're going to slowly bring Gibbs in, like you were saying with Derrick Henry and Tajay Spears. Same exact thing. You don't want these running backs that are your bell cows, even though Gibbs is technically not right now. You don't want them to get as much work early on in the season and overuse them.
Yeah, that's the truth. Before we move on, Desmond Ridder has been really bad. I don't think we really have to talk about that too much, but he's 31 out of 33 quarterbacks on PFF so far this year. I mean, he can bring value in the running game, which I think is huge, and with their system and how much they run the ball, I mean, that's good for sure. And we saw a rushing touchdown out of Desmond Ridder last week, a big one at that. So we'll see. I think there's more to be desired with Desmond Ridder. I mean, that's no secret, but do you think he's the quarterback of the future in Atlanta? We don't have to talk about this too much, but
I don't think so. I think, like you said, he's so limited in the passing game. I could see Algier and Bijan both having touchdowns in this game, and them just relying on the running game as much as any team does in football. I don't see that changing whatsoever in this game. I just, he's got targets with London and Pitts there as well, but it's just tough for me to see that guy as an NFL starting quarterback moving on down the road. Now, maybe he changes some things over the course of this year. I mean, if you're 2-0, you're not going to change your starting quarterback. But your boy, the pride of Old Dominion, Taylor Heineke, is waiting right there to get his chance. The pride of
Old Dominion, dude.
to lead this Falcons team. So if they start to struggle a little bit, don't be surprised if that change comes sooner rather than later.
I thought it was going to come last week until I saw the rushing touchdown, and I was like, oh, that's why they do Ridder instead of Heineke.
But Heineke has the rushing capability too. Like, it's not like he's not fleet on his foot. It's not like it's Tom Brady or Eli Manning back there. Like, he's got some rushing capability for sure.
Yeah, and I mean a lot more in the pass game. So maybe we see a switch to Heineke sometime soon. I mean, I would love that. I hope he gets a shot. But we're both taking Lions in this game. So, all right, let's move on to the next one that we got, and that is the New Orleans Saints against the Green Bay Packers. Some of the things that I'm thinking about going into this game, we'll see whether or not Christian Watson plays this week. I mean, he has not played yet this year. He's been banged up with a hamstring. LaFleur hasn't been too optimistic in his talks this week, but hopefully we see Christian Watson, because everybody remembers from last year what Christian Watson was able to do with Aaron Rodgers. Now, question remains, can he do the same thing with Jordan Love? But Jordan Love's been fantastic this year. I mean, he hasn't put up a ton of passing yards, but I mean, I think he threw around 15 passes last week with no picks, 3 tuds, less than 200 yards passing. So he's a touchdown machine. He's finding these guys. Yeah.
Think about this, though. There was no Aaron Jones last week. There was no Romeo Doubs. There was no Christian Watson. Jaden Reed made the most of his opportunities, that's for sure. Aaron Jones practiced today, so I would imagine he's going to be back this week for Green Bay. And I would imagine you're going to get one, if not both, between Doubs and Watson back. So if you get one or both of them back, that's just going to open up the play calling that much more. And we've seen what he's done with limited receivers. So what happens when he gets his full complement back? Yeah. It's scary for me as a Vikings fan to see another quarterback come through and look really good for the Green Bay Packers, because it was Favre and then it was Rodgers. And now, is it Love? Remains to be seen. But the guy's putting up numbers, man. The guy looks great right now. The defense looks really good too. I know that they blew that game last week in Atlanta, but this is a really good Packers team that we talked about it in the preseason. I felt like everybody just forgot about this team. Everybody wanted to crown either the Lions or the Vikings. And even I think there was more talk of the Bears and the Packers coming into this season too. And everybody just forgot, wait, this is a really good team. And Matt LaFleur is a pretty damn good coach too in the regular season. Season.
Okay, all right. I can respect that. But like LaFleur, I think we have to give so much more credit to LaFleur than we had been previously. I mean, it was kind of a mini version of Belichick-Brady conversation. Like, was Aaron Rodgers making this team good? I kind of thought that Aaron Rodgers was the head coach in Green Bay while he was there. And I was like, LaFleur, like, we'll see what he can do when he has to stand on his own 2 feet. And he has done nothing but excelled so far. So I'm a huge fan of LaFleur. I mean, came out of our system, man. Him and McVay and
O'Connell.
Yeah, O'Connell.
Shanahan.
Yet we're stuck with Ron Rivera and Eric Bieniemy. But I digress.
Real quick, talking about that, crossing sports, it kind of reminds me of a situation with like LeBron and Eric Spoelstra, where we didn't know if Eric Spoelstra was going to be, was he really that good of a coach? And look at what Spoelstra's done. He's gone to 2 NBA finals. I think one was in the bubble, so take it for what it's worth. But yeah, I think that LaFleur has kind of shut some haters up here, at least early on in the year. In my opinion, this could be a playoff matchup. Because I could see the Saints winning the South, and I could see the Packers either sneaking as a wild card or possibly winning the North as well. The Saints, have looked really good so far to start the season as well. Their defense looks incredible, which we had a good idea coming in. Demario Davis is like 36 years old, and he's still just absolutely incredible. You get Lattimore on that defense as well. This is a very well-coached team. They don't turn the ball over. Now you've got Derek Carr spreading the wealth to guys like Michael Thomas and Olave and Rashid Shaheed, who I thought was just going to be a one-hit wonder last year, but has definitely made his mark and found a nice little role with the Saints. And then the only thing that concerns me is Jamal Williams hurt his hamstring last week in the Monday night game against the Panthers. It's Kendre Miller, it's Tony Jones, and maybe Jamal Williams getting back. After this week, you get Kamara back, which is huge for them. But this week, the Packers are getting healthy. It looks like the Saints are going to be a little bit hobbled. I'm going with the Packers in Lambeau. You get a team that plays in a dome coming outside. I know it's in September, so it's not going to be cold. However, I still like the Packers in this game.
Yeah, and I got to agree with you, man. I'm taking the Packers as well. Right now, they're sitting at -1.5 on the spread, which I think is kind of shocking, but it is in Lambeau, like you mentioned. I mean, this defense has been stifling for that's a stretch, because they did allow the comeback from Atlanta last week. But Quay Walker's been...
They had a bad fourth quarter.
Yeah, for sure. And... like, that happens to good teams, and I think this defense is sustainable. You got Quay Walker coming off the outside. Preston Smith's playing really good. Rashawn Gary's playing really good. And Rasul Douglas has actually had a really nice season. The guy who was the hero about 2 years ago with a pick to win the game against A.J. Green. I remember that.
Yeah, with the Cardinals.
Yesterday. Yep. And, but yeah, this defense is really good, and we can't say more about the offense. I mean, this Green Bay offense seems to be clicking, and especially if you got Aaron Jones this week, I mean, you can just dump it off to him. If all things go wrong and you're not developing downfield, just dump it off to Aaron Jones, and he makes something happen in the backfield. And I also wasn't impressed from what I saw from the Saints on Monday night. They, for the most of the game, they weren't really dominating or doing anything of the sort. I mean, they were dominating on defense, sure, but Derek Carr,
against a bad Panthers team that lost Shaq Thompson.
Yeah, I like Derek Carr was my MVP this time, or a little before, but this time last year. I mean, he was an MVP candidate for me, and now it looks not that way, man. I mean, he's just not that guy. But you got Olave, you got Rashid, so they got an offense somewhat, but with the lack of the running game, definitely going Green Bay in this one. So, all right, let's move on to our next matchup that we got, and we don't have to spend too much time on this probably because it is the Denver Broncos against the Miami Dolphins this week. And the big storyline that I can think of is Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle is in concussion protocol this week, so we'll see what this team looks like without Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Defenses will be able to focus more on Tyreek Hill, and that's a problem, especially when you're facing off against this Broncos defense with Patrick Surtain playing really well to start the season. So you're going to have problems there. I am still easily taking the Dolphins. I mean, Tua, man, I've been on the Tua train, and Tua looks like an MVP candidate today, dude. What do you think?
Bradley Chubb going up against his former team that traded him away
line.
last year. You've got Mostert, who's looked really good to start the season for the Dolphins with Jeff Wilson on IR, short-term IR. Tua has looked great. He's probably the MVP front runner as of right now, and there's a lot of questions going on in Denver. The one thing you thought you could rely on was their defense, but my God, what they did in the second, third, and fourth quarter, and what they allowed to Sam Howell and Brian Robinson and Terry McLaurin, I mean, they ate that defense up, and that was supposed to be the strong point. I also think there's this big division between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, and this shows that coaches cannot connect with this guy. He is way too egotistical. He's way too about himself. They can't have the conversations with them. The other thing to keep in mind is this is an 11 a.m. game for the Broncos. They're going to Miami, and if you know anything about how the Dolphin Stadium is set up, the away team is going to be in the sun for the entire duration of the game, which means it's going to be about 15 to 20 degrees hotter for them, and it's going to be humid, which they're not used to whatsoever playing in Denver.
That's a good point.
The weather is going to be a factor there as well. I think the Jalen Waddle thing can be big. I think this might be a little bit closer than what people envision. I know the line, I think, is 6.5. I could see the Dolphins winning by a field goal, maybe 4 points.
Okay.
But I the reason I say that is because this is the time of the year that we see these teams that are 0-2 that are in pure desperation mode. And this is a Broncos team that has talent. They just haven't put it together. And we're going to see a desperate Broncos team this week. I think Sean Payton's going to have some tricks up his sleeve. We'll see if he's able to use them. I still think the Dolphins win this game, but don't be surprised if it's a little bit closer than you might expect.
Okay, yeah, I'm with that. I mean, Sean Payton is locking it down in practice this week. I mean, he is one of the most pissed off guys on earth in Broncos practice going on this week. He's talking about giving Russell Wilson the wristband to call in plays, which you mentioned. I mean, that's obviously some friction between the head coach and the quarterback, which is never good. But, yeah, I'm going to take Miami in this one, despite having no Jalen Waddle. I mean, he could still play in practice today, though, so that's not a great indicator for his status on Sunday. But as you mentioned, Raheem Mostert looked awesome on Sunday. I mean, he looked great.
If you went with like a 0 RB strategy and you were able to get him, I mean, he's turning into an RB2 as of right now. I know I've got him in my auction league, and I got him in Bijan, and I've been very happy with that. And, you know, Jeff Wilson, when he comes back, is he going to contribute? Yeah, he's going to take some carries away, don't get me wrong. But if a guy's putting up numbers like this, why are you going to go away from him? Don't fix what isn't broken.
Yeah.
Mike McDaniel is not a dumb guy by any means, and I think that he realizes that what he's got is pretty damn good. We talk about, though, running backs, how fragile they are. You don't want them to get worn down as early in the season. You might see some more A-chain this week. And then, you know, after this week, I think, what do we got? At least week 5. So probably this week and next week, you're going to see Mostert and A-chain, and then you'll start to incorporate Jeff Wilson a little bit more.
Yeah, and honestly, Savon Ahmed's been involved a lot too. So
he got hurt as well, though.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So he's going to be out
in that Patriots game. Yeah, I think he's out this week, maybe next. I think they said it's like a 1 to 2, maybe 2 to 3 week injury that he has. So they are a little bit slim there, and the injuries are starting to pile up as well. You just can't have Tua get hurt. That's the big thing right here is can Tua stay healthy?
Yeah.
Because if he can, this offense is as explosive as any in the NFL.
Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, not only like Raheem Mostert, he's fast. He's the fastest running back in the NFL, probably on 40 speed wise, or one of the, like, that's actually prominent. I mean, he's a former Mike McDaniel guy that played in the San Fran system, just like Jeff Wilson. But one of them is playing right now and looks really good, as you mentioned. So stick with that high hand, but you're definitely going to see some involvement. And I think you mentioned A-Chain, dude. Like, he could be a lot more involved in this game just because Jalen Waddle's out. Maybe you're looking for that explosiveness, and A-Chain is the definition of explosiveness. So hopefully that
get the guy the ball in space. You might see him lining up at wide receiver a couple times, do a screen or a little dump off or something of that nature, just to give him some opportunities. Yeah, I could absolutely see that.
Yeah, for sure. So something to watch in this game, but definitely rocking Dolphins all the way. But as you mentioned, could be a closer game than most people expect. So, all right, let's dive into yours truly facing off against another's truly, I guess, and that's Chargers going up against the Vikings this week. And I'll let you take it away, man. What are you looking for in this matchup?
shootout. I think this is going to be a game that's somewhere in like the 35-34 type range. I do think that both these teams are going to put up points. Kirk Cousins is on pace for like 6,000 yards, 51 touchdowns, and an 0-17 record this year.
Oh, yeah.
Big news of the week is the Vikings bringing in Cam Akers. Just got notification he passed his physical, so the trade has been completed. The one thing that nobody really talked about, because that overshadowed it, is the Vikings bringing in Dalton Reisner from Denver, the guard from Denver, formerly out of K-State. I think it's a huge addition because that's a guy that the Vikings have been eyeing all offseason, going into training camp. We're never able to get the deal done, and now they're like, we need this because Darisal's a little hobbled. Bradbury was out last week. Udo got hurt last week as well. So this offensive line is already in shambles. So you bring in the veteran guard. I think it's going to really shore up this offensive line. Does he get work this week? Maybe, maybe not. But in weeks to come, absolutely, I think it's going to be a vital part of this offense. I'm predicting a little bit, might seem somewhat far-fetched. It's probably like plus 300, plus 400 on books. Justin Jefferson is going to have 2 touchdowns this week. I think he's going to have a huge game against this Chargers D. But the Vikings can't stop a nosebleed. So if you're the Chargers, if you get Eckler back, just run the damn ball as much as you want. But you've also got guys like back. Even if you don't, you still got Joshua Kelly. Yeah. I think Mike Williams is going to have a big game this week. Last week it was Keenan Allen with the touchdowns. Mike Williams still had like 80-some yards in that game that nobody really talked about. So I think this could be the Mike Williams week to really blow up. And I think both quarterbacks are going to throw for 300-plus yards. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with the Vikings just out of loyalty, but not going to surprise me at all if the Chargers win. These are 2 0-2 teams that probably envision themselves being 2-0 at this point in the year. Or Vikings probably 1-1, but the Chargers definitely could have envisioned themselves being 2-0, and they very well could be. You know, they lost to the Dolphins really close, and they lost in overtime to the Titans. So this team is very good. Playoff aspirations for both teams. I'm just going to go with Vikings. They're at home, and I think that's a big factor in this as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I talked a little bit about it on the preview or the review episode for week 2, but Brandon Staley, man, if he's still sticking around by week 8, what are we doing? What is this, the National Football League? Is this where you coach football professionally and get paid a lot of money to do it? Like, you have one of the best rosters in football and can't do jack shit with it. You have one of the best defenses on paper in football. You got Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa coming off the edge. You got Asante Samuel Jr., J.C. Jackson, Derwin James, Eric Kendricks. Like, this is a very good defense that's playing terribly. And it's funny because Brandon Staley was a defensive coordinator. He's a defensive-minded guy. So he comes in here expected to shore up the defense, and he's being lifted up by Justin Herbert, who he really doesn't have anything to do with. He doesn't have anything to do with that offense for the most part. So Brandon Staley should be out of a job. But besides the point, I think just to keep with my narrative, I'm going to go the Vikings this week. The defense on paper isn't as great, but I know you're not the biggest fan, but I think Brian Flores has done a really good job with this Vikings defense.
Yeah, no, I think he's done a solid job. I thought there were spurts last week where the Vikings defense actually looked pretty solid. I think one thing that showed me last week is Jalen Hurts a passing quarterback? And I think that question still remains to be answered. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the Vikings defense could not have gotten much worse than what it was under Ed Donatel last year. So he didn't have, like, the expectations were not really high for Flores to come in and make this defense, world class. But I think he's done well. I think he's developed some schemes. I love Pace, the linebacker out of Cincinnati, who was an undrafted free agent that they picked up, led the country in tackles last year, was a unanimous first-team All-American, wow. Just a little undersized, but they're getting the most out of him at the linebacker position, and he's kind of taken over Brian Asamoah, who I think there are a lot of people, probably a couple on this podcast, Jaden and Mitch, who thought that Brian Asamoah was going to have a big breakout year, and it just hasn't come to fruition. If they can get Marcus Davenport on track here, him and Danielle Hunter could be really freaking good together, but this defense has still got a lot of holes. The Chargers have more playmakers on their defense, but I think this is, like I said, just going to be an offensive juggernaut battle, kind of complete opposite compared to like the Giants and the Niners, yeah. Or the Saints and the Packers. I think those are going to be more of the Titans, Browns. I think those are going to be more slugfest, whereas these are going to have the explosive plays that I think we're expecting, and I think it is going to happen.
Oh, yeah, for sure. This is probably going to be the most exciting game this week, arguably. So keep an eye out for this one. But we're both rocking Vikings in this one. So next matchup that we got going on is the Patriots at the Jets. And we don't have to spend too much time on this. I think Mac Jones has looked like a great quarterback so far this year. And you're a Mac Jones truther, MVP candidate at one time. So Mac Jones has looked great for this team. I mean, he's doing exactly what they need him to do. He's not making mistakes. He's making the right play. And that's what they need in a quarterback in New England. And they've got the playmakers. Like, they've spent money getting wide receivers. I mean, they got Juju. I mean, he hasn't really made that much of an impact this year. But Kendrick Bourne looks good. Ramondre looks good. And I think this Pats team easily walks away with the win against the Jets. I mean, this Jets defense will create some problems. That's for sure. But Sauce has not been playing up to the level that won him the Defensive Rookie of the Year last year, so that's a problem a little bit. And they still got Zach Wilson at quarterback, so I'm easily rocking the Pats in this one. But anything you're looking to watch?
Hunter Henry's been great so far to start this year for the Patriots, and this is an 0-2 team that could be 2-0. You know, I mean, they had their chances against the Dolphins, they had their chances against the Eagles. And I know both those games are at home, but man, what a tough way to start the season with the Dolphins and the Eagles in back-to-back weeks for the Patriots. Patriots have won 14 straight against the Jets.
That's insane.
I am a firm believer if the team is home and they're an underdog and it's a divisional matchup, to take the home underdog. I'm going with the Jets in this game.
Okay.
I think this is going to be, back to that word, slugfest. You're going to see a lot of those games this week. I think this is going to be one of those 14-10, 17-14 type games where there's going to be very little scoring. And I'm going to trust the Jets defense to get a turnover here or there when they probably shouldn't get a turnover and propel their team to victory. I think last week was an absolute beatdown, but we saw some good things on Monday Night Football against the Bills when Zach Wilson had to come in. I think they're going to go back to Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook a little bit more this week than they did last week. And you still got Garrett Wilson there to provide some electric plays. So I think they're going to get just enough to win this game. Like I said, it's going to be an absolute slugfest. It's going to be a defensive battle. It's going to be about field position. Special teams could play a big role in this game as well. I'm going to go with the Jets as the home underdog in this game.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the special teams. I mean, we all saw what Belichick did on the field goal and how he sent a guy in motion on defense to rush around the edge and block the kick. I mean, that basically, I've seen so much on Twitter this week that basically changed the special teams game, and guys are going to start doing that a lot, maybe even on just the traditional defensive side, you know.
Well, you talk about special teams from the Patriots. What about special teams from the Jets?
Yeah.
Punt return for a touchdown wins the game on Monday Night Football. So both teams have had electric plays on special teams this year that I think could have a very significant impact in this game for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in any Belichick coach game, there's going to be a decent amount of special teams involved. But it scares me because, like, you go the Jets in this one, and the line is not what I would expect it to be. It's sitting at -2.5 for New England, and that's kind of a scary line. I mean, I'm sure all the public's money is on the Patriots, but I'm still going to rock the Pats because I'm just happy with how Mac Jones has played so far this year. I mean, he's the 12th rated quarterback on PFF right now so far for the year. So I like that, and I like the run game to keep them in it. I know they'll be stifled a little bit by this Jets defense, but, I mean, this offense for the Jets can't put up anything. And also, Sauce Gardner deleted his Twitter account earlier this week. Breece Hall tweeted out 4 football emojis for 4 carries. So, like, the vibes are bad in New York right now. And, hey, as I mentioned earlier, maybe they use that as fuel, but I don't think it comes this week. So I'm rocking the Pats. Okay.
It's a very big game because, you know, this is 0-2 against 1-1, and whoever loses this game, I think their season might be done. Like, if Jets can win this and go 2-1, you're starting to believe again. Whereas if the Patriots win this and they're 1-2, you're like, okay, maybe the Patriots could make some noise because they look good in those games, and then they were able to get a win on the road this week. So I think this is an extremely vital game for both of these teams moving forward this season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it'll be one you look back on the calendar and say, this changed our directory of the season. So, All right, let's dive into the next game we got on the slate, and it is my very own Washington Commanders facing off in the legendary FedEx Field against the Buffalo Bills on Sunday. There were some question marks about the Buffalo Bills, especially after week 1, losing to the Jets, and this defense really shored up Josh Allen, but they went out against the Raiders and proved why they had so much high expectations coming into this year. But Washington did their thing last week, man, may I say. May I give myself a little bit of pat on the back, just give the whole team some credit. I mean, Sam Howell, for the first time in a while, I feel like we have an actual quarterback. He's not elite. He's not going to win an MVP or anything. He's not going to go to a Pro Bowl, probably. I mean, that's optimistic. Maybe he does. But we finally have a starting level quarterback in Washington, and he proved that going up against the defense last week, scoring 21 unanswered against a really good defense in Denver. So I liked Sam Howell last week. Brian Robinson had a hell of a game, so you got to love that. But I want to go us at home so we can rock off a nice win last week. But what I saw from week 1 from the Commanders and what I saw for most of the game until we came back against Denver was not good. And it really just lies with this defense, man. I mean, this defense on paper should be so much better than it is. Chase Young's been a pleasant surprise. I mean, he's been playing better than I expected him to. But this defense, this secondary needs to get it together, and we should be much better on the defensive side of the ball. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and take the Bills in this game. But what are you thinking?
The defense only allowed 1 touchdown in the second half last week, and it was the Hail Mary. I mean, They kind of like the Giants defense. They came out a little sluggish. East Coast going to West Coast, later start, a little sluggish. But they turned the corner. You know, that the end of the first half was huge for them to get those points on the board like they were able to do. And I am not sold on this Bills team. I have been adamant about it from the beginning of the season. I have put some money down on them to miss the playoffs this year at plus 225, and I'm sticking by it. Last week did nothing. I said if they blew the Raiders out, my opinion about them does not change. Monday night showed me exactly what I needed to see about them, is that when they're in a close contested game, Josh Allen fucks up. Yeah. Josh Allen makes mistakes, and that's exactly what he did in that Monday night game. I think this is a close game. Taking your Redskins on the money line. And if you haven't been listening to me on this podcast, I will continue to call them the Redskins until they give me a reason to call them their actual name. So I am going with the Commanders. See what I did there? Yeah. I'm going with the Redskins on the money line. I think that they're going to surprise some people in this game. I think a lot of people are still thinking of this Bills team as a juggernaut, as one of the best in the AFC, and I don't see it anymore. I think there's a lot of friction, as you used earlier. There's a lot of friction going on in this locker room, and last week didn't do anything for me. Last week was exactly what I expected them to do, and they did that. Good job. Congratulations. You beat a Raiders team that was going from a time zone where they were on the West Coast to the East Coast playing a 10 a.m. game. That did nothing for me. Yeah. Let me see you do it this week. Let me see you do it against the Redskins, who are, in my opinion, a playoff team as of right now. I think I have them in the playoffs as of right now. And I think that they could absolutely start 3-0, and then there's going to be some talks going on in D.C. about, man, can we have a DMV Super Bowl between the Ravens and the Commanders? And when I put them in that light, that's when I can call them by their real name, is when I can put them in the Super Bowl conversation.
There you go. Respect. I mean, we're going to get a new name next year anyway. It's going to be the constant Ferris wheel of Washington fandom. But, yeah, I wish I could be with you, man. I wish I could. I thought that comeback was awesome, and great point mentioned in the defense, like stifling them in the second half, but it's not like they're stifling a good offense. I mean, this offense wasn't supposed to look good in the first place, and Russell Wilson was looking like he was back in the first half, and we were letting him cook.
Well, I feel like a lot of it was Marvin Mims having 2 really big catches. Okay. I felt like that was kind of what spelled disaster for them early on, is Marvin Mims connecting on those 2 big catches. But I just don't trust this Bills team, man. Respect. Oh my gosh, hold on. Breaking news. The Cowboys fear that Pro Bowl cornerback Trevon Diggs suffered a torn ACL in practice today.
Oh my God. Wow, dude.
happened during one-on-one drills. He was taken off. He was being evaluated, hurting his leg at today's practice. Diggs was seen on crutches after practice, and then it just came out from Tom Pelissero, Cowboys fear that Pro Bowl cornerback Trevon Diggs has suffered a torn ACL.
Oh my God!
Breaking news.
That's the craziest breaking news we've gotten live on a podcast. I mean, damn, dude. I mean, we're gonna talk about the Cowboys here in a little bit, but
in other breaking news, Andy Dalton is now expected to start this Sunday at Seattle. Bryce Young is not expected to be the starter.
Holy crap, dude! What?
Tom Pelissero, an MRI already confirmed Trevon Diggs' injury per source. He's done for the season.
Wow, that is brutal, bro. And I say it with a smile on my face. I'm not rooting for Trevon Diggs to get hurt. Obviously, I love him, and he's a Diggs brother, so I'm a huge fan. But I'm not a fan of this Cowboys team, and that really changes their outlook for the rest of the year. Because Trevon Diggs, I've been talking a lot of stuff coming into this year, but he shut me up pretty quick these first 2 weeks of the season. But that really stinks, man. And, we're about to talk about the Panthers a little bit coming up here, so let's just roll through. But, wow, I am a little shook up right now. I'm not going to lie. That's 2 back-to-back bangers of breaking news, but we'll get to it in a little bit. Okay, Texans at the Jags this week. Storylines coming out of this one. C.J. Stroud looked a little better last week. I mean, some would say a little better than just a little better, because Nico Collins has been his guy, and they seem like they are clicking on all cylinders there. I mean, Nico Collins had over 150 yards receiving last week. I believe it was over 10 catches, so he's been a dog. But then you look on the offensive side of the ball for Jacksonville, and I would like to get some flowers, please, because Christian Kirk had a really nice week last week, man. And I know that we are differing opinions on Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk. I still believe that Christian Kirk is wide receiver 1 there. And it really, what told me all I needed to know is the last week, Calvin Ridley just looked out of shape. I mean, he was on the sidelines, hands on his knees, huffing and puffing. And Christian Kirk wasn't doing any of that. And if you're going to play in Jacksonville, you're going to have trouble with that for the foreseeable future playing at home. So, yeah, I mean, I'll take a little bit of a victory lap on Christian Kirk. A lot of the season left to go. So, but I thought that take was dead after week 1. And I feel a little better about it now.
I still like Calvin Ridley a lot this year. I'm still going to stand on that. 1 week's not going to deter me from that. Honestly, I think last week shows more about maybe what the Chiefs' defense is. You know, I don't think we saw that as it being that good. I know there was hype about it being a lot better, but like, man, it looks like it could be one of the top defenses in the AFC early on in the season. I don't think there's much to say about this game. Stroud has looked good. I think he had like 370 yards, but he did do it on like 49 or 50 passing attempts last week because they were down so much in that game that was the only choice they had. Tank Dell looks really good to start the season, as does Nico Collins, like you mentioned. I just don't think the Texans can hang in this game. I think the Jags are just a tier above them. The line's 9. I don't. Maybe the Texans can get a backdoor cover, but I see this being a double-digit win for the Jags.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree, and there's not really much else to say about it. But yeah, gotta love Jacksonville this year. I mean, they looked sus again last week against Kansas City, so we'll see if they can get that together. But it should be a nice bounce back game against Texans at home this week. So. Next game that we got to talk about is a little bit of an interesting one for sure, and that is the Anthony Richardson-led or possible Gardner Minshew-led Indianapolis Colts taking off against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore on Sunday. And, I mean, if this game has no AR, and it's looking like that's the case, I mean, I don't think he practiced again today. He's another guy caught up in concussion protocol. I mean, Trevor Lawrence talked about it with him after week 1. He was like, dude, you need to learn how to protect yourself. Like, these hits will stack up quicker in the NFL than they will in college. These hits aren't the same. And he didn't seem like he took too much of that advice, because we're staring at down the barrel at week 3 here, and he's already in concussion protocol. So that's rough for Indy fans for sure. But either way, I mean, I'm taking the Ravens if this team is led by Minshew, and the Ravens really impressed last week with a banged up team. So definitely take the Ravens.
I don't think there's much to talk about in this game. I mean, if AR plays, maybe it gives the Colts a fighting chance, but I think the Ravens at home, I don't see how they lose this game.
Yeah.
I don't. I love that Mark Andrews was able to get into the end zone last week. That's good news for the Ravens. And I've talked about how this is the best group of playmakers that Lamar has had since he's been, the quarterback in Baltimore. I know Dobbins gets hurt, so that puts a little bit of a damper on that. But Zay Flowers looks incredible to start this season. You still got Odell. You still got Bateman. Aguilar came out of nowhere last week and had a couple of big catches, including a touchdown. And then you've got Old Reliable with Mark Andrews underneath. Can the offensive line stay healthy? That's going to be the big question mark, I think, for the Ravens. But at least this week, I don't see them struggling with this Colts team.
Yeah, no. It should be easy pickings for the Baltimore Ravens this week, for sure. So let's dive into our next game that we got to talk about. And we get to talk about a little bit of a storyline that just broke live on the podcast. And that is, I don't even have a graphic for it, but it's Seahawks, Panthers this week facing off. And, the thing to talk about is Bryce Young is no longer the starting quarterback in Carolina. I saw some stuff, I believe it was like 2 days ago, something like that, where it was like, we can't even get a quarterback sneak involved in our playbook because Bryce Young is too small. And we saw that in week 2. They specifically brought out Dalton for QB sneaks to get him those 3rd and 1, those short yardage situations. And the quarterback sneak has become so popular that that's pretty important. And I thought that was the end of it. I was like, oh, okay, they're going to put Dalton in for the QB sneak, and that'll be cool. But Andy Dalton has taken over as the starter in Carolina. So definitely taking the Seahawks this week, that's for sure. But what's the outlook for Bryce Young? Is it panic time? What's the plan there? Are they going to sit him the rest of this year, or just kind of play it by ear? What's the deal?
I don't think they sit him the rest of the year. I think they want to try and salvage. They're 0-2, so they're like, hey, let's just go to the veteran here. Let's try and salvage our season. Because if you start 0-3, you got to assume the season's done at that point. So maybe they're just trying to get whatever they can out of this for right now. But with Shaq Thompson being hurt, Brian Burns was a little bit banged up too. I just don't see much with this Panthers team, unfortunately. I think it's going to be a long season for Panthers fans. I think he comes back in. Maybe give him 2 to 3 weeks, learn a little bit, and then bring him back. Frank Reich's a pretty good quarterback-style coach, so I think that could really help him out. And learning under a veteran doesn't hurt either. So, I think a couple weeks break, we'll see what he's got after that, and then I can make a more of a valid opinion about him, because I just have too small of a sample size right now to be able to establish anything.
Yeah, it just surprised me because he was voted as a team captain by the players, and that's a good indicator for your rookie quarterback. And I thought there would have been a little bit of a longer leash, but maybe this is the strategy. Maybe once you see your rookie quarterback start to take some dings those first couple weeks, take him out early as opposed to letting him play it out all year, and then you have like a Justin Fields situation where his confidence is shot, or a Zach Wilson situation where the confidence is just at an all-time low. And for quarterbacks, that's a huge deal. And if you don't believe you can be that guy, you're not going to be that guy. So give Bryce Young some time, bring him in when he's confident, when he's ready. And I think that's a smart move from Frank Reich and company. But definitely taking the Seahawks this week. So, okay, let's dive into the next game that we got to talk about. And we get to do the storylines back to back, because we're doing Cowboys versus the Cardinals. And, dude, I had been so mad at the Cowboys on the episodes so far this year, but I almost feel bad for them. Like, good God, that really stinks, dude. Trayvon Diggs out for the year with an ACL. How does that affect this team this year?
Yeah, this week, going against Cardinals, I think, they'll still win. I don't think it'll be really in question that they're going to win this game. Maybe they come out even more motivated than they might have perceived coming into this game. Moving forward, though, they did go out and get Gilmore in the offseason to kind of have that 1-2 duo at corner, but man, this puts a damper on what was a really good start to the Cowboys season, because you're losing a Pro Bowl, one of the best corners in the league. No matter if you think, oh, he's boom or bust, he's still one of the best corners in the league, and he just signed a 5-year, almost $100 million contract this offseason. It's a huge, huge loss for the Cowboys. You're going to rely on this defense a lot of the year, because I'm not a Dak believer. I think he needs a good defense in order for him to be really good in this league. Yeah, I mean,
Glad to
moving
finally
forward,
have somebody on my side, dude. Jeez. Jaden's been hyping up Dak for 2 weeks, man. I can't take
he
enough of
leads
it.
he leads the NFL in QBR, but like they haven't even been in these. They haven't even needed him. What happens when a game comes down to crunch time? Then let me see who Dak really is, because you're 140-0. Then what was last week, like 30-10 or something like that? It was never in question that they were going to win either of those games. Show me a game when he's got to put, pedal to the metal, go out, lead a game-winning drive. Then I'll believe in Dak, and maybe he has changed from last season. But as of right now, he's done nothing this year to change my opinion about what type of quarterback he is. But yeah, from the defensive side, this hurts. I mean, in more than one way, this really hurts. This, in my opinion, the best defense in football, at least to start the year. So
sure.
it's major news. It's terrible news. It happened in one-on-one drills. In practice, it didn't even happen in a game, and that just shows how quickly seasons can change. Literally in practice, you don't expect anything to be coming, on a Thursday afternoon or a Wednesday afternoon in practice. You don't expect news to break like that, and it's very, very unfortunate for the Cowboys, for the fans. It's unfortunate for football too, because he is one of the budding stars in this league.
Yeah, I know, and who knows if he comes back? It's the same corner. I mean, ACL recovery has become almost easy in today's day and age, but Trayvon Diggs will be back next year. Hopefully he's back by this time next year, but we will see. It just sucks, man, because this was looking like a special team, and even though it is the Dallas Cowboys, I'm always here for history, man, and this defense looked like it was going to make some history this year, so kind of stinks, but I'm going to be a little wacky. And I'm going to take the Cardinals in this game, because you saw what the Cardinals did week 1 against a playoff team in the Washington Commanders. I mean, we played them very close. I thought for a while we were going to lose that game until the fourth quarter. The Cardinals beat the dog piss out of the Giants for 30 minutes on Sunday, and obviously you let up the biggest comeback in franchise history, in Giants history, so that part stinks. But, I mean, I think this team is going to be reeling a little bit without Trayvon Diggs. And I think it's a mental aspect, and that paired with the Cardinals not being as bad as everybody wants to think that they are, I'll go the Cardinals in this one. And I know when Jaden goes back and listens to this, he is going to laugh his ass off. But can't wait. And Dallas, despite I know it's probably not been adjusted for the injury, minus 12.5 on the spread.
You're taking Joshua Dobbs against this defense. Okay, you know what? Have fun with it. I like to go out on limbs with picks too. Like last year, I took Washington to beat Philly on Monday Night Football at Philly to stop their win. They started 10-0, their undefeated streak. That hit, and I think they were like a 10-point dog. But like, all right, man. You know what? I respect going out on a limb here, but man, you're asking for something big here.
Yeah.
The Cardinals have had some good moments here and there. The defense has looked a little bit better than I think a lot of people envisioned. But I just don't. This is just a completely different caliber team than what they faced in the first 2 weeks, even without Diggs.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely going out on a limb, but why not for one of these? And I've been hating on the Cowboys for so long that I am rocking the Cardinals this week on the biggest spread of any game this week. So can't wait for that. But okay, let's dive into
second. I'm pretty sure it's second biggest spread, and the biggest spread would be
Chiefs Bears.
There we
Bears,
go.
Man. Good call out, man. Good call out. And for perspective, you can't even see the graphics that I'm pulling up. So, like, you already knew what I had.
Well, I knew there was one more 425 game that we had to go over. That's what it was.
Respect. Genius level IQ. But, yeah, so we got Chicago Bears facing off against the Kansas City Chiefs this week. It's the Chiefs. I mean, what is going on in Chicago right now, dude? I mean, the defensive coordinator's house was just raided. It was rumored that the whole facility at Chicago was raided, but that didn't end up being true. And guess who the lead investigator is? Charles Tillman. Peanut Tillman. Now FBI agent is the lead investigator on this case, and I cannot... It's literally a movie going on in Chicago right now. The big thing football-wise to talk about, I mean, Justin Fields, dude. He was expected to take the next step up this year. Supposed to break the franchise record in passing yards, which wouldn't have been that impressive anyway, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen either way now. And
I do agree with his comment, though, this past week, basically saying, like, I've been trying to basically saying that he's been trying to be too much like a quarterback, and this week he's just like, I don't have anything to lose. I'm just going to go out there and play. And that's basically the style of quarterback that he is. It's just, I don't want to say like, backyard football style, but like, let the guy run, let him get out into space. Don't keep him in the pocket. Let him do what he can do best. And that really is running the ball. And when he's able to run the ball, it opens up the passing game. I can't believe Chase Claypool scored a touchdown last week. That is just the most remarkable thing I think in sports that I've seen this entire year is that Chase Claypool scored a touchdown. The Bears don't have much, man. The one thing I'm looking at in this game from a fantasy perspective is, does Khalil Herbert keep this job, or does Roschon Johnson take it over? And I think it might come in the next couple of weeks if Herbert continues to struggle, because Roschon has looked good in his limited time against the Packers and the Bucs. So that RB1 is not as concrete as Herbert and some Bears fans might think. I think this is Chiefs. I think this is a get-right spot for them. Got Kelsey back. You got Jones back. They put up 17 last week. They put up 20 on the first week against the Lions. This is a game where I think they put up like 35. Like, I could see this being like a 28-7 at half or something like that, where the Chiefs have just totally taken control.
Oh, yeah. They want to prove some stuff. I mean, Travis Kelce's been in the media for dating, may or may not be dating one very popular pop star. And I think that Andy Reid's got to be in the locker room this week. Like, guys, like, all this outside noise, keep it quiet, dude. Like, we are the Chiefs. We are going to grind, and I'm sure that's what they've been doing in practice this week. So they're about to make a statement win against Chicago in Arrowhead. So that'll be fun to watch.
I don't know if you saw last week when Kelsey scored his touchdown. Ian Eagle was on the call for the Jags and Chiefs game, and Patrick Mahomes threw the touchdown to him, and Ian Eagle said, Kelsey's able to find some blank space in the end zone. And I was like, that's pretty good, because the whole Taylor Swift and Kelsey rumors that have been going on. I don't think if there's one team in the NFL that can go out and get and have a quote-unquote off-field distraction like that, it's the Chiefs. I think they're going to be totally fine. And I think, like I said, this is a week where we're going to see that explosive offense really come to fruition.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Can't wait to watch it, just because we'll be able to see a completely unleashed Kansas City team on Sunday.
Well, and think about this. This is a Bears team that's faced Jordan Love and Baker Mayfield, and now they get Patrick Mahomes. And they've allowed 27 and 30, I think, to Jordan Love, 28-30 to Jordan Love. So I expect big things from this Chiefs offense this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a long day for Chicago fans. It's going to be a long season for Chicago fans in general. So
the 4 o'clock games are going to be snoozers, man. Seahawks, Panthers, Bears, Chiefs, and Cowboys, Cardinals. I don't expect either of these games to be close, which means one of them will be.
Yep. And I think it's going to be
Cardinals,
Cowboys, baby. That's what it's going to be. Oh, man, can't wait to watch the 4 o'clock slate. But, okay, let's dive into the next game, and that is on Sunday Night Football. And, honestly, we don't have to spend too much time on this one either, because this is a snoozer on Sunday Night Football, to say the least. I'm sorry, Jaden. You know that to be a fact. I mean, you've been talking about your team in the chat, and it's not been so glowingly. I mean, Kenny Pickett has not taken a next step from last year, which seemed almost impossible because Kenny Pickett was terrible last year. George Pickens had a really nice Monday Night Football game, so you gotta love that. The Pickett-Pickens connection is starting to unfold. Najee Harris doesn't seem like he has a job as RB1 anymore. Jaylen Warren was far more impressive on Sunday Night Football. I think you'll see not Jaylen Warren take over the job just yet, but I think it'll be a lot more of an even split going into this one. And on the Raiders side, I mean, gosh, I don't know. I mean, Josh Jacobs has been terrible to start the year. This defense has been terrible.
Did you see Josh Jacobs last week, what he did against Buffalo? He had -2 rushing yards.
I don't understand.
And this is what I was worried about coming into the season with Jacobs. Guys that hold out and then sign that contract that close to the season never end up having a very good year the year after. You've seen it time and time again, and I don't see that changing this week. I mean, maybe he gets a touchdown to boost his fantasy numbers, but I don't see like a 15 for 100 type game or 20 for 100. I think we're going to see somewhere in the 50 to 60 rushing yard range, which for him might be a boost compared to what he's been doing.
Sure.
I agree. This game sucks, man. This game, I know it's two old franchises that have this storied history and all this shit.
Me with that.
Jimmy G against Kenny Pickett on Sunday Night Football. Yeah, I'm out on that one.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll take the Steelers in this game. You know what? I'll give the benefit of the doubt to the Steelers and TJ Watt, because I think that's going to be the difference maker in this game. But, TJ Watt and Max Crosby could be what contributes for points in this game. Yeah. If you really think about it. I don't. And Devontae Adams was in concussion protocol. Is he out of concussion protocol? Is he playing? I don't even know the status there.
I believe he is healthy, but I mean the whole vibe is off. I mean Devontae Adams didn't even want to play in Vegas this year. I mean there was debates that he would hold out the whole year. So like it's just bad weather in Vegas right now. This game is in Vegas. The spread is -3 for the Raiders, which I find pretty surprising. But I'll go ahead and take the Steelers in this one with you. So. Let's dive in to the next game that we got on the slate, and that is Monday Night Football matchup. Eagles, Bucks.
Got two of them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Back to back. I don't know why they did this back-to-back weeks. Why they only did one game on week 1, I guess because they wanted the 9/11 spotlight in New York. But like last week we had 2 Monday night games, and then this week we have 2 Monday night games. And after this, there's no more double Monday night. It's just these 2 weeks, which
I'll take
next week though. Real quick, next week we get a London game, baby.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Jags and Jags and Falcons, I want to say. Yep, Falcons and Jags
at 9:30
a.m.
I don't know what the deal is.
They play back-to-back weeks. In London. They're just going to stay in England for 2 weeks.
Wow, they're gonna practice up there and everything. That's crazy.
The week after is Jags and Bills.
Okay, all right.
Which will be a good. But the one on October 1st, so next week, we can talk about that next week. They're doing like you know how they did the Nickelodeon slime? They're doing a Toy Story theme for this one. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we doing here? But I might tune into it a little bit at 10 a.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, the players are going to be the toys, dude. Of course I'm going to tune in. Is freaking Trevor Lawrence could be dressed up as Woody. I'll take it, dude.
Yeah. I wonder who's going to be Slinky.
Oh, yeah. We got to try to figure out who's Buzz. It'll be a fun...
Right?
Dude, Bijan's got to be Buzz Lightyear, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yep. I like that one. That's a good call.
Well, we'll be watching very intently to find out who the Toy Story characters are in the London game. But for this game, we got the Eagles and the Bucks facing off on Monday Night Football. And, I mean, the Bucks... They've impressed so far this year, man. I mean, Baker Mayfield has taken this team a lot farther than a lot of people would think. Mike Evans, despite the claims that he was getting too old, he has proven everybody wrong there. He's still looking for a new contract. He's probably going to get it playing like this. Rachaad White's been really nice, part of the offense for Tampa Bay. Not a lot of expectations for him. Some people thought he was not even going to keep the job for a couple weeks, but he's been playing really well. And this defense, man, is really where where everything comes in. I mean, this Bucs defense, they didn't really lose a lot of guys since they were winning Super Bowls with Brady. So now they're rolling out basically the same crew. You got Devin White, Levante David, Vita Vea up the middle. I mean, this is a very good squad. But they do face off against Philly. Philly has been getting into some issues. Let me look at the spread in this one.
It's 5.5. It's Eagles by 5.5, which probably seems right.
Yeah.
The crazy part about this game is this is the only matchup this week of 2 teams that are 2-0.
Okay.
Which I would have never expected coming into the season that the Bucs would be 2-0. The Eagles just haven't looked the same that they were last year. I don't know what it is. Like I said, I think it might be that Jalen Hurts is not as prolific of a passing quarterback as what we might have envisioned. And I like the Eagles to win, but I think the Bucs cover this. I think that this is a 3 or a 4 point game when it's all said and done. Something like a 24-20, maybe 27-24 type game. I think the over/under is like 46, so that's right on par with what I'm predicting as well. Everybody wrote off Baker Mayfield. Everybody said this guy's done in the NFL. He's bounced around to different teams, and he's just a journeyman at this point. But maybe he's found a home here in Tampa because the expectations weren't really there. They were like, all right, well, Tom Brady's gone. The Bucs are just going to suck. And now they're actually doing pretty damn well, at least to start the season. Like you said, Mike Evans had the contract disputes. They haven't signed him long-term, but he's proven maybe you guys should sign me because I'm not slowing down. I'm going for another 1,000-yard season, which is all he does is rack up 1,000-yard seasons.
What a dog, man.
Is
Mike Evans a Hall of Famer?
Still there? Man,
I think he is, dude. He's got rings with Brady.
I think it depends. On how many. If he plays like 2 or 3 more years at this caliber, yeah, I would because if he gets to like 10 1,000-yard receiving seasons, yeah, there's no way you keep that from him whatsoever.
I don't think you can keep it from him. He's already set the record for most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, so I don't think you can keep him out of the Hall if he retires today. I mean, he's not a first ballot guy, that's for sure, but I think he probably ends up in the Hall. But let's talk about this game. Honestly, I'll go out on another limb here, and I think I'm going to take Tampa Bay at home in Tampa Bay. Yeah, that's my move. What you got?
It wouldn't surprise me all that much. Like I said, I'm going to go with the Eagles on the money line, but I think the Bucks cover, which I think it's going to be once again one of those games that's a lot closer than I think people envision. Both of those games are happening in Florida: the Broncos and the Dolphins, and then the Eagles and the Bucks. But yeah, there's something sneaky about this Bucks team that I can't figure it out yet. But they've got some sort of a moxie and veteran leadership that, I didn't see coming into this year. I thought they were going to be, a bottom 10 team in the NFL, but they've really surprised. And this could be a big statement game for them to propel their season forward. But even if they lose and they keep it competitive, I think people's opinions of the Bucks are going to change compared to where they were at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and I think maybe that sleeper guy that we've yet to figure out why these things are happening, and maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I do think Todd Bowles is a really good head coach. This defense has been really good, maybe even as an exaggeration, but they've been firing on all cylinders on the defensive side, and Todd Bowles, I mean, he's got rings, he's got experience in this league, he's a former head coach. I mean, he's been Tampa Bay's head coach for what, 2 years now?
20, because they won the Super Bowl in 2021, so 2020 or 2020, right? So 2021. Yeah, so this is his 3rd year at Tampa.
Yeah, so like he's been trying to figure it out post Brady, and maybe he has figured.
Yeah,
it out.
I mean, clearly the players trust him, which is the biggest thing is to get the players to trust you. So, I think Todd Bowles is a fine coach. I don't think he's in that upper echelon of coaches in the league, but he's fine and he gets the most out of his players, which is all you want from a coach.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll be watching that one on Monday night, and then we'll be watching the other game that we got, and that is a Super Bowl matchup at one point, and it looks like, I mean, not the complete opposite, but the complete opposite right now for Cincinnati right now. I mean, they started the year 0-2, but the Rams are firing on all cylinders to start the season, and nobody expected that, especially over here at the Blitz Pod. I mean, Puka Nacua has become Cooper Kupp, and once Cooper Kupp comes back, then you have both those guys firing on all cylinders, so you got to love that. Kyron Williams, he's the guy now in LA. They've shipped off Cam Akers, and Kyron Williams is the guy for a reason because he's been balling out. I mean, I think he scored 2 touchdowns on the ground last week. He's somewhat of an asset in the receiving game, so gotta love that. This offensive line has played out of its shoes, man. I mean, it's a very terrible line on paper, but they've been doing really well protecting an old Matt Stafford, and that was some of the problem last year and why you saw Matt Stafford exit so early. And, I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm thinking here. I mean, Joe Burrow has looked nothing like himself so far.
Is he going to play?
Yeah, that's a great question, dude. That's a great question.
I don't know if he's playing this week. I mean, we saw him in that Ravens game. He could barely walk by the end of that game. So I don't know if he is going to play, which means is it Jeff Driscoll?
I want to say it's Jake Browning. I don't know why.
No way. Is it?
I'll look it up. Jake Browning is a name.
Former Washington great. Yeah, it is Jake Browning. Good call.
Okay.
So if that's the case, I'm going to take the Rams in this game.
Yeah.
Weirdly, that I would take the Rams in this game compared to what we were talking about at the beginning of the season. But it just shows you that having an offensive play caller like Sean McVay and having his quarterback, which is Matthew Stafford, can make all the difference in the world. We saw them what they did in Seattle, carve that defense up, and then they hung in there with San Fran. I mean, they got one of the worst bad beats that I've seen in so much time. They were down 10 points with 3 seconds left, and they kicked the field goal as time expired to lose by 7, and the spread ended at San Fran by 7.5. So they lost by 7. So the money totally flipped on that one bullshit kick, basically. McVay said he wasn't aware of it. I find that hard to believe. Yeah, coming into this game, Kyron Williams has looked good to start the year. Puka Nacua has been the Odell Beckham waiver wire ad of the year.
Oh yeah.
So far this year.
Deep cut. Anybody that can recognize that little phrase, but go ahead.
And another guy that I like that's really shined so far is Tutu Atwell, the pride of Louisville. He's played very good so far to start this year. Should be getting Cooper Kupp back here in a couple weeks, hopefully. We'll see. But the one guy that's just completely disappeared from this offense, Van Jefferson.
Yeah, dude.
He is completely gone. I mean, I think people thought, oh, Cooper Kupp's out. This is going to be Van Jefferson's time to shine. Nope. He's like third or fourth on the depth chart now. Yeah. So they've got guys there. This Bengals team is struggling. And I say I'm going to take the Rams. I'm going to actually take the Bengals. I'm going to take the Bengals. And here's the reason why is because the Bengals are 0-2.
Yeah.
They know they cannot drop to 0-3. I don't care who the quarterback is. They know they cannot drop to 0-3. They're too good of a team. I don't care who's at quarterback. Jamar Chase scores this week, calling that as well. He's had a very sluggish start to the season. I think Joe Mixon might get on the board this week as well. Also had a very sluggish start to the season. I just think this Bengals team's got too many playmakers, no matter who's at quarterback, for the Rams to overcome that.
Yeah, and not to mention, I mean, on the offensive side, they've got better playmakers, and this is a far better defense on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm probably going to go Cincy as well. I mean, everybody talks about how Cincy was 0-2 last year. They did not go 0-3, and then they went on to have a great season. So, yeah, I will go ahead and take the Bengals in this one as well. And some of that's just, I still don't believe what the Rams are doing yet. But maybe one more week, and I'll totally buy in. But
this is how I know I'm pretty sure Joe Burrow's out. The spread is only Bengals minus 1.5.
Oh, wow.
Which is very telling because if what it started at was 6.5.
Damn.
And then it's gone from that all the way to 1.5, which means, I mean, if you want to try and hop on Bengals
at the start
now,
of this podcast, it was -3.
Wow. So, okay.
That's insane, dude.
Well, and it depends on where you look. Because, like, some places will have it 3, some places will have it 2, right. 1, whatever it might be.
That's true.
But, yeah, no, if you want to try and hop on the Bengals now and hope that Burrows plays, I would do it now instead of waiting. But, man, that's a dicey game for me.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it'll be a good way to end the week.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we've got the 1:00 games I think are a good slate. I'm a little worried about Sunday night.
Yeah.
And Monday I think could be a little bit of a fun night. But the 4:00 games are going to suck. And then the 1:00 games, there's going to be some action, I think, throughout with some pretty good matchups.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Can't wait to watch intently this week. Keeping an eye out for all these matchups, all the previews that we did. Keep an eye out for our picks.
Who's your best bet?
Oh, best bet this week. Am I lock it in? Best bet? You know what? I'm not. This is kind of a joke, but I'm gonna go Cardinals against the Cowboys.
You want to use? All right.
Wait.
So what are
Okay.
They, 12.5?
You know what? That's it. I won't be that way. Let's not be that way.
I'm going with the over 54.5 Chargers Vikings as my best bet of the week.
You know what? I mean, the spread is 12.5 on the Cardinals game, so I'll go ahead and take the Cardinals spread, and that'll be my best bet for this week.
All right, so you got 12.5 Cardinals. I've got the over with the Chargers and Vikings. Let's see what we can do.
Yes, sir.
Make some money this weekend.
Yes, sir. Let's see what happens, man. It ought to be a good week 3. We will catch you guys post week 3 to do the review episodes, and hopefully me and Tyler are on an episode together talking to you guys sometime soon. So we will catch you later. Peace.